Holmes gets answers. The house where Mr. Holder lived was made of white stone and rather big. A wide road led to the house, and on the right side there was a small path leading from the road to the kitchen door. The other small path led to the stables. It was winter, and white deep snow covered the big garden. Holmes walked slowly all round the house again and again, and then he went down the small kitchen path and through the garden to the back of the house. He walked so long that Mr. Holder and I went into the dining room and waited for him by the fire. We were sitting there in silence when the door opened and a young lady came in. She was not very tall, slim, with dark hair and dark eyes. I don't think I have ever seen such a pale white face. Her lips were colorless too, and her eyes were red with crying. She didn't look at me but came up to her uncle. "Have you told them to free Arthur, Dad?" "No, Mary. The police. But I'm sure he has done nothing." "I know it. I know you'll be sorry for it." "Why is he silent then, if he didn't steal the barrels?" "Who knows? But I saw him with the cornet in his hand. Perhaps he just wanted to look at it. It's so terrible to think of our dear Arthur in prison." "Not until they find the barrels. I have brought a gentleman from London to look more deeply into the case." "This gentleman?" she asked, looking at me. "No, his friend. He wanted us to leave him alone. He is in the stables lane now." "What can he hope to find there?" "Ah, this, I think, is he. I believe, sir, that you will be able to prove that Arthur hasn't done anything." "I agree with you, young lady. I think that we can prove it. I believe you must be Miss Mary Holder. May I ask you one or two questions?" "Please do, sir, if it may be of any help." "You heard nothing yourself last night?" "Nothing, until my uncle here began to speak loudly. I heard that and came down." "You locked the windows and doors the night before. Did you lock all the windows?" "Yes." "Were they all locked in the morning?" "Yes." "You have a girl servant who has a sweetheart? I think that you told your uncle last night that she went to see him." "Yes, and she was the girl who waited in the sitting room and who could hear Uncle's story about the cornet." "I see. You think that perhaps she went out to tell her sweetheart and that the two had a plan?" "But what's the good of all these theories?" cried the banker, "when I told you that I saw Arthur with the cornet in his hands." "Wait a little, Mr. Holder. We must come back to that. About this girl, Miss Holder. You saw her return by the kitchen door?" "Yes. When I went to see if the door was locked for the night, I saw her. I saw the man too." "Do you know him?" "Oh, yes. He is the greengrocer who brings our vegetables. His name is Francis Prosper." "He stood," said Holmes, "to the left of the door, up the path." "Yes, he did." "And he is a man with a wooden leg?" They saw something like fear in the young lady's expressive black eyes. "Why, are you like a magician?" said she. "How do you know that?" She smiled, but there was no answering smile in Holmes' thin face, and he said, "I would like to go upstairs, then to go over the outside of the house again, but first I'll take a look at the windows on the ground floor." Holmes walked quickly from window to window. He opened the large one which looked from the hall to the stable lane. He was watching outside. "Now, let's go upstairs," he said at last. In the banker's sitting room, he came up to the case where the crown was. He studied the lock. He opened the case and took out the cornet. It was bent and one corner was missing. "Now, Mr. Holder, will you try to break off the other corner of the cornet?" The banker looked very surprised. "I won't try," he said. "Then I will." Holmes suddenly tried to break the cornet, but with no result. "I feel it move a little," he said, "but I can't break it. I don't think anyone could." "I don't know what to think. It's all dark to me," said Holder. "Your son had no shoes on when you saw him. He had his trousers and a shirt." "Thank you. Well, now I'll go outside. Stay here, because some extra footprints will make the task more difficult." When Sherlock Holmes came back about an hour later, his feet were white with snow, but he had nothing much to say. I think I have seen now all that there is to see, Mr. Holder. I am going home now. But the barrels, Mr. Holmes, where are they? I cannot tell. The banker looked very unhappy. I shall never see them again, he cried. My son, can you give me any hope? I think he hasn't done anything. Then what happened in my house last night? If you come to me tomorrow morning, I'll be happy to do what I can to help you. Are you ready to spend a large sum of money? Anything to get the barrels back. I was sure that Holmes knew the answer to all Holder's questions, but what is a mystery to me? On our way home, I tried to get the answer, but Holmes was quiet and didn't say a word. When we were back home, he hurried to his room and was down again in a few minutes, dressed like a beggar, wearing old dirty clothes. I was having my tea when he came back. He looked very pleased. I haven't finished yet. I'm going out again in a minute. Where to? Oh, the other side of London. I'll be back late, so don't wait up for me. How are you getting on? Are you having any luck? I asked. So. I have been to Holder's house. Now I must change back to my own clothes. And off he went again, dressed in his usual way. I waited for him up to the midnight, and then I went to my room. In the morning, when I came down for breakfast in the morning, there he was, with a cup of coffee in one hand and the newspaper in the other, quite fresh and pleased.